Okay, now we're going to look at two medical conditions which are very similar in terms of the signs and symptoms that you see. Signs being what you see, symptoms being what the casualty is feeling. And that is heart attacks and angina. Heart attack is a medical emergency. You have to get you call 999 for somebody suffering a suspected heart attack because it leads to a cardiac arrest, which is fatal. Angina can subsequently lead to a heart attack, stroke, and cardiac arrest, but generally angina is a medical condition which is treated with medication and is not necessarily a medical emergency. It all depends on how long they've been suffering from the pain and what they were doing when the pain came on. So, first of all, I'm going to go through the differences between angina and a heart attack so that we know heart attacks are definitely a 999 call, okay? So the first thing is going to be, what was the casualty doing when the pain came out? So what would I expect to see from somebody suffering from either of those conditions? I'd expect them to be having chest pains. So if you'd like to demonstrate, they'll be clutching their chest. They might be experiencing anxiety. Particularly with a heart attack, they talk about a sense of impending doom. Basically, that means they think they're going to die. So if I've got somebody complaining of pain like this, I've got to think to myself, where's the best place for that person, based on the fact that there's a possibility that person might pass out, is to get them on the floor. So if you want to sit down on the floor for me, please. Now I need to be asking some questions and lots of reassurance. Okay, can you tell me what's wrong?
Yeah, I've been having chest pain for 40 minutes.
Okay, so she's very good. She's giving me the answers. I'm not even have to ask for them. But 40 minutes. So straight away, that is a big tick box for a heart attack, because angina attacks, generally, provided they're doing the right thing, last for no longer than 8 minutes. The rule of thumb, though, is if they've been experiencing chest pains for 15 minutes or more, call an ambulance. So I'd be calling for a bystander, or I'd be making the call myself. Now, here's a little tip. If you are ever having to ring for the emergency services in front of your casualty, it's not a good idea to mention the word heart attack in front of them, because it's one thing them suspecting it, but to have a trained person say, I think you're having a heart attack, that can quite often freak people out. So all you need to say to the emergency services is basic, they've been experiencing chest pains for about 40 minutes. They're all trained, the operators, they will know that that is a suspected heart attack, okay? So the best position for this person is not lying flat, not in the recovery position, but what we call the W position. So now I suspect a heart attack. There's a couple of other questions you could ask this person. What were you doing when the pain came on?
I wasn't doing anything.
Right, that's another big tick box for a heart attack. Generally, angina, which is a narrowing of the arteries, and you need more blood when you exercise, and that's when angina attacks tend to come on. Heart attack can come on even when you're just sitting down resting. So what we're going to do with this casualty now is place them into what we call the W position. That would be where I kneel behind the person, and if you just lean back a little bit, bring your knees up. So this is the W position. Now, the advantage of this position are, if she goes unresponsive, I can just lay her down to the floor, move her to the floor. If she's in a chair or standing up and she goes down, she's going to go down really quickly. She could face plant, she could get injuries as a result of going to the floor. So it's better to get them in this position. It's a great position for you to be able to monitor your casualty, but also it's a good position for them to continue breathing, okay? So the three fundamental things that are going to distinguish the fact this is a heart attack. One is, what were they doing? If they were exercising, you rest them. Symptoms start to dissipate, you know that's an angina attack. How long the actual pain's been going for, which is 40 minutes. Well, anything more than 50 minutes is going to be a heart attack, okay? Because angina attacks don't normally last longer than 8 minutes, provided they're resting. And then the third thing is looking at your casualty, look at their face, and if they're very pale and sweating profusely, that is a classic sign of a heart attack. So pale and sweating profusely. If you see that in your casualty, you know you've got problems. Okay, so we're going to reassure them, leave them in the W position. If at any stage they go unresponsive, you lay them down and you do your doctor's ABC on them. From the start, considering the danger, do your response checks on them. If they're breathing, unresponsive, recovery position. If they're not breathing, straight into CPR. Make sure you get a defibrillator there as quickly as possible. Only other thing is, with your casualties, with heart attacks, as I've said, you will see them being very sweaty and very pale, almost like Casper the ghost, the little character in that film Casper. Very, very pale. They look like You heard the expression death warmed up. They don't look well at all. Most people that suffer heart attacks, they generally, before they have the heart attack, say they've been feeling unwell. Now, heart attacks, they can be suffering for up to a few days. And people have had mini heart attacks and not realised it. My father's had quite a number of mini heart attacks before he had some big heart attacks. So it's very uncommon. It's quite often mistaken for indigestion, when in actual fact they're having a heart attack. There is a treatment that is one of only 2 drugs that you're allowed to administer to casualties as a first aid. One of them is one that I've already showed you, which is the adrenaline in the form of an EpiPen. The other one is aspirin. Now, basically, in my car, I always carry a box of aspirin chewable tablets. Now, the good book recommends, if you've got somebody suffering from a heart attack symptoms, you give them a 300 milligram tablet to chew. Somebody that suffers from angina may well have a spray, which is called GTN spray, and they just spray that under the tongue, and that opens up all the blood vessels and releases the effects of the actual angina attack.